Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 9:01 a.m. and you are listening to and watching Good Morning, Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. It's Monday and we have a new guest in the studio with a returning guest and friend, Bobby Dobrowski.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good to see you, my man.
Thank
Good to see you. And Brian Phelan.
Morning, Curtis.
Absolutely. Are here to talk about something very important for youth, families, and also the general public, and that is adult and child CPR.
Yeah.
Something that's ongoing right now with the Aurora Regional Fire Museum. As you know, the Fire Museum does great things here in the city of Aurora. We're going to talk about that today and also give you guys information how you can get involved and potentially save a life. So before we get going, how you guys feeling this morning on this Monday morning? How does it feel?
Feeling great.
Feeling good.
I ran 5 miles this morning,
All
kind of
right.
get my nerves out of here before joining the podcast, so that felt really good.
Wonderful.
So,
Shout out to F3.
Yes, yep, with my F3 brothers out there. So I was out at the complex, at the DuPage River complex, and we ran out to Whalen Lake and back.
Okay.
So yeah.
Wonderful. And Brian?
I didn't, get that, my mojo going that way,
You got your Starbucks, though. So
Yeah, I had my Starbucks and a bagel. And
You are ready. You are ready for it, definitely. So, adult and child CPR.
Yes.
Let's talk about the genesis of this program with the Fire Museum, how it started, and what folks can expect and what they can learn, and how things are going with this.
Sure. So I started my own business back in 2022, and I generally offer CPR programming to the public in private training. So child care centers, organizations, and just renting out spaces and just having people come into my training program. So back 2 years ago, I was on Facebook and just on Facebook groups looking for a new facility. And I said, hey, I'm a Aurora native. I live here in Aurora, looking for some place to host my CPR trainings. And then I get a DM saying, I'm the executive director of the Fire Museum. Let's start a chat. So we met online, like so many other couples do.
And it was love at first sight.
It was love at first sight. So I came in, it was December during Chris Kingle Market. I took my son into the Fire Museum. It was our first time. So we went in there, looked at the fire museums, looked at the facility, played in the playroom, and immediately like, all right, this is the place to be. This is downtown Aurora where everyone's going to be in the heart of the city. I want to get connected more to the city. Great central station, great parking too. That's the one thing. It's hard to find when you do CPR training in cities, but yeah, great parking, and we've been partnering ever since. So renting out spaces and doing some other great programs.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so in addition to Bobby using the Fire Museum for programming, this past year we were very fortunate. We had a partnership. We did a program at East Aurora High School for about 600 students, sophomores and juniors. So did obviously a CPR, but then also taught how to use a fire extinguisher as well as about careers in museums.
That's wonderful. Awesome stuff. Now, you shared, before the microphones came on, you shared some facts about CPR and saving lives and things that happen in the home as opposed to the public. Could you share that with people? Because I think that's important information that folks should know.
Yeah, so one of the facts is, and this is all from the American Red Cross website, based on their CARES reporting from 2023. It's just reporting from EMS professionals, hospitals. So all this is all data driven. So out of 70% of out of hospital cardiac arrests are most likely going to happen in the home.
Wow.
So you're most likely, if you ever need to give someone CPR, you're going to give it to a loved one. And studies have shown that people that have an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest are more likely to survive with bystander CPR, referred those to people who did not receive bystander CPR.
Okay. How did the youth of East Aurora and the people, and the young people that you've been dealing with, how are they taking the CPR training, classes and readiness and things like that?
I think very seriously. I've had, so we had a lot of kids come up with like just stories of what happened to their loved ones, to their siblings, and how they can help themselves and what to do if they're ever put in that situation. We just held our first babysitter class.
Okay.
We just had 8 kids certified in babysitter and adult pediatric first aid CPR AED. So they were very interactive, asking a lot of questions, and very making sure they were doing right, making sure, am I doing everything right? I'm like, no, you're doing it right. There's a lot of great questions on there. So they're very interested when they want to help out. So
awesome, good stuff. Another question that I have, and maybe other folks have had this question too, is the signs that someone may be experiencing cardiac arrest, or the symptoms which would require CPR. What do those signs look like, and how distinguishable are they from perhaps other signs or other symptoms or ailments which may not require CPR? How can one? I think this is the universal sign for
choking.
I'm choking.
Yeah.
Besides that, how would one be able to tell?
Well, so first, you want to recognize the signs of a heart attack. So someone that's when the heart is starting, your heart's still beating, but it's starting to get weaker.
Okay.
So in males, it's the typical signs where you feel like an elephant stomping on their chest and the pain's radiating throughout your body and shortness of breath. Females, it's slightly subtle. They might feel sick to the stomach, or like they're throwing up.
Okay.
So be subtle for those signs. You want to be subtle for those signs. If someone's in cardiac arrest, they're generally unconscious and appear not to be breathing or only gasping.
Okay.
You assume cardiac arrest and start CPR is what I teach my lay responder CPR,
Okay.
CPR participants.
All right. And the process of becoming CPR certified, what is that like, and how can one find more information about that? We're still going to talk, more about it, but how can I get CPR certified if I'm interested, or the listeners?
So if you're going to go directly through us, you can go to my website, dobrowskillscpr.com.
Okay.
We'll also have links on the Fire Museum website and links on CPR, and you sign up on my website, and it's a two-part process. It's a blended learning program, so you're going to learn all the mandatory stuff online. And depending on your technology skills. So if you're really good at the computer, you're semi-familiar with the skills, you have a good internet connection, it could take you 30 minutes. If you're not familiar with the skills, it could take you 2 hours, and it's a self-paced online course.
I see.
And then you come in for 2.5 hours for the adult pediatric first aid CPR course, and we're making sure you do the skills correctly, then we're testing the skills.
Awesome.
And that certificate will be good for 2 years, and it's a digital certificate, and it follows you wherever you go. So if you ever lose that certificate, you go to the American Red Cross website, put in the name and email you registered with, and you'll be able to re-download that certificate at any time.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff. 9:08 is the time if you are just joining us. We're here with Bobby Dobrowski and Brian Failing of the Aurora Regional Fire Museum, here to talk about adult and youth CPR. Now, I see that you brought some...
I brought some fun. I brought some friends.
You brought some
friends.
Shout out to Dobrowskills.
My Dobrowskills, yeah. So I brought my adult mannequin right here. I brought my child mannequin right here.
All right.
And we brought my infant mannequin right here. So Brian, over here. So we brought CPR mannequins, and generally the ratio is 3 participants to a mannequin.
Okay.
When we're teaching the mannequins, and one person is the participant, one person is the bystander, and the other person is coaching, or just kind of has notes so they can study along.
Okay.
So, and what we do is these mannequins are made by Preston. So, and what happens is when we're teaching CPR, we expose their chest, and when we compress on the heart, you can't see it right now, but lights will light up.
Okay.
So I know if you're going fast enough, and I'll know if you're going hard enough, because they'll also click if you're going, because when it comes to adults, you're compressing on the heart 2 inches deep and letting it come back to fill up with blood at a rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute. So yes, so just as the song says, staying alive, another one bites the dust. Baby shark, baby shark. And if you go on my website, I have a blog article connected to a Spotify playlist with all sorts of CPR. You can do songs of CPR too.
That is very helpful.
So, but the reason is it's 100 to 120, because if you go too slow, you're not going to get the heart pumping hard enough the blood. If you go too fast, you're not getting enough blood in the heart, which is why you need to go 100 to 120 compressions per minute.
Okay.
And essentially what's happening is during cardiac arrest, the heart's not functioning well enough where the heart is not beating ineffectively.
Right.
You are the heart to compress blood and vital oxygen to their brain and other vital organs until EMS arrive. So you are the first, we're teaching people, first responders, to make sure they have the skills necessary to keep the person alive until more advanced personnel take over.
I see. Now, what is the, I assume that the procedure is going to be the same for the infant, but perhaps is it less force, or, how does that, these are novice questions.
No, definitely.
But, am I going to be using the same amount of pressure that I am child with infant, adult with child?
So the compression ratio is 30 compressions, 2 breaths for adults, children, or infants.
Okay.
What's going to change is this rate remains the same, 100 to 120.
Okay.
What's going to change is how deep you're compressing on the chest and how far you tilt the head back if you're giving breaths. So for adults, we're going at least 2 inches deep.
Okay.
For children, we're going about 2 inches. And infants, we're going about 1.5 inches. And we generally, the age range is birth to 12 months.
Okay.
And then for children, it's 12 months to the onset of puberty, and then with adults, it's puberty to adulthood.
So if I or any of the listeners or viewers comes across someone who is experiencing an episode, should we begin CPR, then call 911, or call 911 and begin?
So there's always, whenever there's a situation, there's call for situations and care for situations.
Okay.
And I always teach people the 3 C's. Check,
C's, yep.
call, care.
Okay.
First thing you do, check the scene. Make sure the scene is safe, because you don't want yourself to get hurt if there's. Would you jump into a fire? Would you jump into a building that's on fire? No. Would you jump into a building that's filled with gas? No.
Right.
You automatically call 911. Right? Would you jump into a car that's on fire to help someone? No. So make sure the scene is safe so you can approach the person.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. Then you're getting a general idea of what's happening. How many people are involved? Does the person appear unconscious? And then just seeing what resources you have.
Okay.
And then if you have the proper, if I take out my keychain, I always carry personal protective equipment with me all the time. So face shield and gloves, latex-free nitrile gloves. So I'll put those on, and then what I'm going to do is I'm checking for consciousness, because I'm just trying to see if the person was waking up.
Right.
Because even if the person is not waking up and still breathing, something else could be going wrong. So I'm checking the person because we're making sure they're okay. Are you okay? Are you okay? And then I'm doing a quick check for breathing for no more than 10 seconds.
Okay.
And what we're doing is, when it's an adult and they're unconscious, consent is implied. So I'm automatically allowed to go up to an adult.
Okay,
if it's a child I'm helping, I have to look for a guardian, or someone in charge of them. And I have to ask them permission before I help them out. But if the child is by themselves and their life is in danger, consent is implied.
Okay.
So I'm going up, making sure they're awake, and looking for any signs of bleeding, because bleeding is a care for scenario. Because if someone's in cardiac arrest and they have severe bleeding, you got to take care of the severe wound, because every time you compress on that heart, the blood's going to go out the wound.
Right. Wow.
So you got to take care of that bleeding first, and we can go about that in a couple minutes.
Okay.
So after you check for consciousness, you're doing a quick check for breathing, and so let's say the person's unconscious and not breathing. I'm going to use either my cell phone or find someone else. I'm going to point them in the room, and I'm going to say, if I don't know their name, I'm going to call them out. You in the black polo shirt, go call 911. Get me a first aid kit. Get me an AED, and come back. And you tell people to come back, because people are afraid and they just want to run away. So you hold them accountable to help them come back.
Right.
So then I'm going to start caring for the person. Check, call, care. If the person is unconscious and not breathing or only gasping, we assume cardiac arrest, and we start CPR.
Okay.
And that's why I teach lay responder CPR. And that's why I teach first responders.
That's awesome. Good information. 9:14 is the time, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with Bobby Dobrowski of Dobrowski CPR.
Dobrowski
CPR, and Brian Failing, Executive Director of the Aurora Regional Fire Museum. Can we do any cool?
We can. I can definitely.
Wow,
So,
you can.
I can show you. We can actually do it right here. So do you want to show the infant, want to show the child, or adult? Which one do you want to
Let's do the adult.
Let's do the adult. So we're going to do right here, and I'll demonstrate right here. I'm going to grab out my personal protective equipment, and I also have an AED trainer too.
Oh, this is a first for Good Morning Aurora.
So
boy.
an AED, it stands for automatic external defibrillator.
Okay.
Essentially, what happens is it's teaching what it's trying to detect if the heart is pumping effectively,
Okay.
and it's going to shock it back to a normal rhythm.
Okay.
All right. So thank you very. So I'm going to get a face shield out, and what we'll do is, so Brian is an American Red Cross instructor. So I trained him and his team to become American Red Cross instructors. And what we'll do, he'll give me the prompts so I can help this person.
Wonderful.
All right.
Wonderful.
So I'm going to stand up. So Brian, I'm going to kind of paramime at the same time, and hopefully my voice, and I do have a very loud voice, and hopefully it's going to carry around. So Brian, are you ready to go?
All right.
All right. And then Curtis, you're going to be my bystander.
Okay. All
Sound
right.
good? All right. So let's move some of these stuff out of the ground, around, and we'll get started.
And
so
I'm the bystander. Cool.
You're the bystander. So Brian's going to give us a scenario. All right. So Brian, whenever you're ready.
All right. You are at Chick-fil-A standing in line when suddenly you hear someone gasp and fall to the floor.
Checking the scene, making sure the scene is safe.
The scene is safe.
If I have PPE, I'm gonna put on my gloves. I'm gonna open it up. All right. Checking for, just getting a general idea. Sir, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm looking for breathing, and I'm trying to see if I see any bleeding.
The person appears unconscious and does not have any life-threatening bleeding. Consent is implied.
Hey, you in the gray polo, call 911. Get me a first aid kit. Give me an AED, and come right back. I'm
Understood.
starting CPR.
911, I have an emergency at Chick-fil-A. Does this location have an AED? You do?
12, 13, 14,
Thank you very
15,
much.
16. Here, thank
I'm
you very
back.
much.
Absolutely.
Adult patient. If the patient is a child, press the child button.
Gonna take off their clothes.
Remove clothing from the patient's chest. Remove packet and apply pads onto patient. Press pads firmly on skin.
Whoa.
Apply pads, press pads firmly on skin. Do not touch
Everyone
the
clear,
patient.
get out of the way.
Analyzing
Everyone clear,
heart
stand
rhythm.
out of the way. Everyone
Do not
clear.
touch the
It's
patient.
analyzing, get out of the
Analyzing
way.
Heart rhythm. Shock.
All right,
advised.
getting ready to shock. Everyone stay
Do
out of
not
the way.
touch the patient.
Stay out of the way. Everyone
Everyone
clear.
clear.
Everyone clear.
Press the
Pressing the
flashing
shock button.
Shock
delivered. Starting CPR.
Begin
1
CPR.
and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7
EMS
and 8
has
and
arrived.
9 and 10. There we go, and that's how it goes. If EMS didn't arrive, I'm going to do 30 compressions, 2 breaths. So let me demonstrate that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24,
Continue
25,
CPR.
26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
So when you do the breaths, you want to tilt the head back, hold the nose, pinch the nose, so that way the air goes into the lungs and not just right back out.
And I'm just going to pause.
Continue
the AED there.
CPR.
So what it will do is this will keep going for 2 minutes, and then every 2 minutes it's going to reanalyze.
I see.
And I keep going until the person shows an obvious sign of life. The scene becomes unsafe. Another trained responder takes over. The AED tells me to stop. I'm alone and too tired to continue. Because if I'm the only person around giving CPR and no one comes to respond to me, and I'm a pretty healthy guy, eventually I'm going to tire out.
Sure.
And if you're not doing effective compressions, you're going to tire out too. So that's when you can stop. If you're not doing effective compressions, you can stop.
I see what you mean about the rhythm.
Yeah.
And when you're applying that pressure. Baby shark, do do
Yeah.
do do do. That's exactly the
That
rhythm
right,
and
the
pace that you
100
had.
to 120, yeah, 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Because what we're doing is we're compressing down on the heart
Right.
to compress the blood out, and then it come back to fill with blood.
Right.
So a lot of people ask me, am I going to hurt this person while giving CPR?
That's what I think too.
So
just
the answer is
instinctively.
yes.
Okay.
So I always tell, so if people ask me, am I going to help the person? I tell the story about Darmar Hamlin, the football player that received CPR because he was hit so hard that his heart stopped on the field.
Wow.
But with effective compressions, breath, and an AED, he was able to survive. But the compressions were so effective, his rib cage punctured his lungs.
Ooh.
But he was young enough where he was able to survive that, and he made that call, right? Our job is to, you may bruise and break someone's ribs, right? But their heart's still going to work. So you're keeping oxygen to their brain and other vital organs until the ambulance gets there. So you are that vital first piece. And brain death starts to occur between 4 to 6 minutes.
Wow.
Permanent brain death happens between 8 and 10 minutes. The median time for an EMS to arrive at a scene is 7.6 minutes.
Wow. So Brian mentioned that EMS had arrived on scene.
Yes.
Now, when he mentioned that, you, I think, were in the middle of your compressions. You would have certainly have finished those. No, okay.
I stop CPR when another trained responder takes over. If they say, we got it, they tap me on the shoulder, they're going to start doing their they're going to take over for me because they might have more advanced. They have advanced skills. They have advanced technology to start CPR and keep the heart going longer period of time.
Right.
So I want to get them out of the way.
Question that I have.
Yeah.
You know, we did this scenario assuming that we were in a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
What would be now I know that tilting the head back is also part of this. How would you do that? You know, we're assuming we're on the floor of the Chick-fil-A in the lobby. What's the best method of doing that? How am I going to tilt their head back? Am I just doing that? Is there something that we could put under?
So a head tilt.
So one thing you mentioned too is making sure, you know, if they're probably on the floor. You want to get the person to a flat surface. Like you don't want to be, you know, say you find someone unresponsive in bed. You don't want them in the bed. You want them on a flat surface because otherwise you're just going to bounce with the bed. You're not going to give effective compression.
That makes a lot of sense.
If you can safely take them off the bed to a firm flat surface.
Understood.
Because you need to compress down on the heart and to come back and fill up.
That makes sense. Okay, understood. Yeah.
So you're asking. So again, with an adult, it's adult chin. So I'm tilting my hand on the forehead and 2 fingers on the bony part of the chin. Head tilt, chin. I'm going to remove the face shield, and I'm going to a past neutral position.
Okay.
So that's how far back I'm going for an adult. For a child, it's slightly past neutral, and for an infant, it's neutral, straight up and down. That's how I'm doing that. And people ask me, Bobby, I'm not cool like you. I don't carry personal protective equipment with me. This isn't my child or my husband. I'm not comfortable giving full CPR. What do I do? Well, you can do hands-only CPR by just doing nonstop compressions because there's still oxygen floating in the bloodstream.
Right.
By just doing continuous nonstop compressions, you're going to get oxygen to the brain and other vital organs while waiting for an ambulance to get there. Now, studies have shown that a combination of compressions and breaths will give the person a better chance of survival. But if you don't have proper PPE and you're not comfortable giving full CPR, you can do hands-only CPR.
Okay.
And we just did a hands-only CPR program during First Fridays in June. June is CPR Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that Friday, and we had, I'll jokingly say, we had double the amount of people from last year join in our CPR program.
Nice.
So we only had 1 person last year sign up. This year we had 4 people come to our program.
Success.
So
Shout out
success.
the wins.
So
Shout out the wins when we get them.
People.
Absolutely.
So that's more people that are CPR certified, that are learning about the museum, that are learning about Dobrowski, about my company. And I'm an American Red Cross training provider.
Okay.
So I teach through the American Red Cross, and I use their videos, their skills, their teaching, their practices to deliver CPR and administer my certificates.
Okay.
So, Bobby, obviously we teach that you use personal protective equipment, but let's say you don't know who this person is and you want to give full CPR, so that's, you know, compressions and breaths. Yeah. What are your chances of that you're going to get something from doing that?
I don't have that information to say what are the chances, but that's a personal that's something up to you. And hopefully someone has a first aid kit when they get the AED. The AED kit will have a first aid kit, will have proper PPE to use that. And if you don't have the proper PPE, let's say you don't put on the gloves right away, you always wash your hands thoroughly after you're done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. 9:24 is the time. So with the last remaining bit of time that we have,
Yeah.
how can people learn more? How can people get involved? And when are the next, rather events or community moments where folks can come out, learn about the procedures, and see what's going on with you guys?
So again, you can go to my website, dobrowskicpr.com,
Okay.
and where you'll see all my latest events. We'll also have links on the Aurora Regional Fire Museum website and social media. So all of our social media, you'll be able to find it. My next class is June 24th at the Fire Museum, where
Okay.
I'm offering a babysitter class for kids ages 11 to 16, and they'll sit from 9 to 1,
Okay.
learning babysitter skills. Then they'll be part of the full adult CPR class, which the public can also be part of in the afternoon. We also have a Tuesday date in July, and we have a Saturday date on August 9th coming
Okay.
up.
Speaking of which, and I think that's in August, National Night Out. Where will you be? Will you be here locally in Aurora?
I live in Aurora. We live in Ward 9, so we're gonna I have to talk to my wife and kids where we're gonna be
Okay.
at Ward. But we're typically go to the Ward 9 function because that's where we live in Aurora.
Okay, awesome. All right. This is amazing stuff. So I think my last question for you is, how did you get involved? What's the genesis of Dobrowskis? How did that begin?
So I was an administrator for Bright Horizons Family Solutions,
Okay.
and one of my job functions was teaching CPR to all the staff, doing CPR. And then my wife and I decided for me to stay home and for her to go to work full time. So she's a 204 teacher. I'm very proud of her. She just finished her 20th school year.
Shout out District 204.
Stop-
Wabanzi
District
Valley
204.
graduate right here.
Yeah. So very proud of her, and we decided for me to stay home, and I still needed to do income. So instead of doing CPR for Bright Horizons, I found a company where I told them my hours, and they sent me to various places based on my hours. But then COVID hit. No one was doing CPR.
Right.
And then all my friends, COVID was ending, all my friends in childcare, they were becoming directors, teachers, and they said, hey, why don't you start your own business? I'm like, why don't I start my own business?
Right.
Because I have all these connections, and that's how I started my own training company in January of 2020.
What a great way to use your skills to serve people.
Thank you.
And to serve the greater good. That's awesome. And then with the Fire Museum as well, this is another great example of different kinds of programming that you guys have. You guys are really an all-around Aurora service at the Fire Museum. Everything from history to life-saving skills.
For sure. We have a lot going on in addition to obviously all the partnerships with Bobby and Dobrowskis. We also have a barbecue this Wednesday where you can purchase a meal for yourself and your family, but also donate to first responders. So we're donating meals to all the on-duty police, fire, and to some of the hospitals as well. So that's this Wednesday,
The meat
Strawberries
raffle.
Barbecue.
Is that the meat raffle?
No, the barbecue.
Okay.
We already had the meat raffle. But yeah, so barbecue with Strawberries Barbecue this Wednesday, June 18th, 4:30 to 6:30. Meals are $16. You can buy them online, preferably beforehand, but you can also buy them at the door. You can show up, purchase your meal, drive on through. And then our next free day this summer is on July 1st, and we have a lot of cool stuff going on with that. So Tuesday, July 1st, 10 to 4, sponsored by the Aurora Regional Economic Alliance area, and we'll have free admission. We have a pop-up exhibit on wildland firefighters. Or wilderness firefighters, sorry. We will have Rebuilding Together Aurora there, doing free tie-dye shirts with the kids and adults too, and King County Sheriff's Office and a few other surprises as well.
Okay, wonderful. Great stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, the link for Dobrowskis will be in the description of this video. I would want to say thank you very much to the Aurora Regional Fire Museum and also Brian and Dobrowskis for coming out, giving us a demonstration about how you and your loved ones can save a life. Right now, Good Morning Aurora is going to end. I hope that you guys have a great day. And our sister program, Buenos Dias Aurora, is about to begin. The guest this morning is Angelina Victoria, interviewed by Mr. Jose Torres, dear friend of ours. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you guys tomorrow with more news and the very best of Aurora. Take care of yourself and each other.
Feeling bullied by your bank?
Hey, I got a random overdraft fee.
You've reached our main menu.
If you're disputing an overdraft fee, please press 4. Or just hang up and call back tomorrow.
Are you pretending to be a robot?
Goodbye.
Stop banking the same way expecting different results and start banking where you matter. Wintrust. Different approach, better results.
YEP gives me a lot of hope for the future, not just here locally, but as those kids go out into the world and they share their perspectives and their passions, it's going to be infectious. It's going to spread. So they're just an amazing organization that sets their partners and this community up for success. The future of this community and honestly the country and the world is bright with the kids that are on that YEP program because they're going to save the world. They're doing incredible work, and to just get to know them and learn about their passions was a very fulfilling experience for me. Without the Community Foundation, it would be much more difficult for Hesed House and so many other organizations here locally to enact our mission on a daily basis.